People love this shit. How's it going, everybody? Man, tomorrow here. Thank you for coming through for the show. Last cut was. You want to know what that is? That's what it is. I want to thank you guys for coming through. You guys have to realize and understand that you've already won. You've already won by not playing, sir. You've already won by not being accepted. You've already won by not understanding how these things work. You've already won by focusing on productivity, which is the direct opposite of what things actually works on here. You've already won. This is why I don't like questions like this. Like, questions like this. It's like when a person feels like culturally they have to fix things as a person that's below the age of like 25. I'm like, dude, you already won by not playing. You didn't have to see PhDs come to the manosphere and actually focus on things that had nothing to do with black male progress or any type of progress for any other people. You didn't have to see that. That stuff's already here already. You didn't have to come here to see older women not go after Cynthia G and all these other women. You didn't have to see that as a young man. You already see right now that they're all fucked up, even if they're 40 plus years old. Even if you're below the age of 25, you can see that this is not something that you're going to actually have to deal with as a person. You didn't have to see 60-year-olds come out here try to save younger old hoes because his life is fucked up. You didn't have to see that as a guy who's 20-something years old. You didn't have to see that. You didn't have to see people who thought they were picked by the women because of their alphaness within society when the only thing they did was pick those guys so that way they can build the exact community that they wanted at the end of the day. Only to turn around and still complain about what they built with those men that they chose. You didn't have to see that as a young dude. I understand. You feel outnumbered because you feel like you're not winning. Bro, you're already winning is because of the fact that you are outnumbered. The school that you're taking seriously and the pathway that you're on right now, most people won't be able to cash in on. And as GC said in one of his scrolls, if you care more about their outcomes than they do, you already lost. They can always leverage how much you feel about them against you. Period. That's how this works. So it doesn't matter to people who celebrating that a guy is about to get 1 million subscribers based on shit that he's not actually doing. Because most people want to make it just like that. And if a person can make it by lying about his life, not really having a background about what he's talking about, that leaves the door open for sucker ass dudes like them to come through the door. That's what this shit's about. No other nationality is doing this. Like most nationalities, when they come to America, they created a different class of themselves once they get here. The different class that they create themselves once they get here is very simple. Skills and abilities first. All the bullshit it don't matter. Like they already got women waiting on them already, who's already there to respect that. So if the older generation are not even trying to create that for the younger dudes, and they're just dipping into the younger pool, while the older so-called decent women help them do it, you have to realize that this stuff was already called before you came into the game. It's kind of like you walking in as a relief pitcher. You see the score's like 24 to nothing, but they called you in as a relief pitcher to come into the game to finish the game out. So that way the actual win-loss ratio won't go onto the main pitcher. What kind of sense does that make? You already know that you're not going to be able to outpitch what has happened throughout the entire game. But at the end of the day, you guys have to understand that you are here to maintain the status quo. That's what you're here to do. And most of these people think that since I'm capitalizing, I'm a capitalist. You're not a capitalist. You don't build shit. You destroy shit. You consume shit. Consumers are not capitalists. They're parasites. They're not capitalists. Right? Because at the end of the day, all you have to do is do the multiplier effect inside your mind. If everybody in the society did this type of thing, where the hell we would be as men? If everybody decided to wait on an unchanged feminine specimen that don't care about you and try to pretend like you got to have, she has to have her shit under control to the point to where she's going to bring you into her camp and actually share the power with you that she actually grabbed from the system herself, then something is wrong with you as a human being. Something is very wrong. The manosphere didn't fail. Failures joined the manosphere to take the message off course. Because the people who are winning in the manosphere are not people who are winning in real life in any other shape, form, or fashion. That's why they're here. Here you can talk about, say anything about whatever you want to, but at the end of the day, these people are not the people who are winning. The actual pro-blacks and all that shit, they're not really winning at all. Like, it takes a lot of people to consume to create one of those type of people. And once consumption becomes an actual art form, to where a lot of people has to have their productivity placed on hold so that way you can actually boost up another demagogue within society to move forward, then your society is never going to work, period. That's how that works. Like other cultures have already went through this shit 200-300 years, sometimes 1,000 years ago, especially if they're Asian culture. They already been through this shit 1,000 years ago. They don't have to worry about whether or not they go to an actual productive human being or a non-productive human being. They already went through that shit before. People who couldn't farm, people who couldn't do those type of things. But we're in like the modern society where people think that access to uncultured women temporarily is somehow going to give you a long-term result. Like you have to understand that the people who are actually quote unquote winning in the eyes of them ain't the people who are winning in society right now. How do you know it? Winning is completely based on the environment itself. And not only the environment itself, it's based on the actual individuals who are winning within that environment and how those things work. How do you know it? Other cultures come here, bring their women here, bring their culture here, and they're not trying to adopt the what is said as the actual culture here, so that way they can win. They actually exclude those things of how those things win. Like they come here, they come from a worse situation, and they come here to see how things already work. They already scope this thing out. And then they decide not to practice certain type of things to get certain type of outcomes. Because within those cultures, there is a level of self-repair and checks and balances within it. But see, most dudes here think they're slick as fuck. They think that, oh, I'm the most reasonable guy on the plantation, and this is the most reasonable woman on the plantation as well. So we're not going to be plantation of the old school. We're going to be plantation of the new school. We're not going to give up our associations. We're going to allow hustle cultures to still keep going. I'm not going to give up the fact of any of my associations. I'm going to believe in old hoes talking to other younger old hoes in the making. And somehow there's going to be a collective group of men that we're going to be turning these women on to. And that's going to be able to work. It's the same game. They're just running it in a different city. This is new. This is Plantation New Game Plus. Same dumb motherfuckers who did not hold up any standards or anything else in the previous game come through in New Game Plus with all the same failures that happened before. And they're going to be able to saddle you with the actual idea that you're going to be able to actually be the person who take this stuff up to the mainstream and actually fail. You have to understand that most of the people who want to be mainstream manosphere would not survive an interview on public television. I did that this week with the people who actually go up against PhDs who actually know policy. Them dudes got destroyed. Period. That's what happened. So you have to recognize that they did not have to work to get choice. You have to work to get choice and options. That's how this system works. He or she who has the most options win. Now, most women, they don't have to work for their actual options in society and life. We already know that. Most bad body bitches, tons of kids, culture's broken, no consequence for being not adhering to any type of society. Because if the men come to the table saying that they're actually going to be able to accept anything that is handed out in the environment itself, then your culture is broken. No standards. That's how no standards work. No standards don't help anybody except for those who does not exhibit a standard. And it's not like they don't have choice. They have an inordinate amount of choice. And then we built, like, you're too young to understand this, but we built a bitch ass nigga culture that protected the woman's choice itself within the environment itself. We built a whole culture to protect the actual irresponsibility of people within the environment itself. We built a culture around that. There, I mean, I can't even call it the 50-year-old fuck nigga because now they're 60. And the fuck nigga don't go from the fucking 40 and 30. It's the 20, 30, 40. It's the 20 through fucking 70-year-old fuck nigga class of people now who pushing the shit. Because the women right now don't need productive men. They already have a system that works for them. The women need right now is plantation bucks who actually turn around and try to misguide and misrepresent what is masculinity within the environment itself. So that way you can chase a false standard. You see, that's the difference between the inductive and deductive reasoning process. Through the deductive reasoning, the actual outcome still has to be true. But in the inductive reasoning process, you still have to take the whole environment in before you actually go out there and experiment in it. And it still has to be true before you reach the outcome. But you have people practicing the deductive model as if bowing down and giving her everything that she wants within the society here is going to help her pay attention more to the men within the society in it. That's the worst way of dealing with any type of negotiation. It's coming into a negotiation with the other side already knowing what your end goal and end point is. If somebody already knows what your end goal and end point is, the only thing they can do at best is pay you lip service. about what you're going through. There's no standard. There's no standard. Because men are supposed to uphold standard, and women are supposed to follow a standard if it was handed down to them. But if the women are way ahead of the men because the women were taught to be usurious toward the men within the society and life, then there can never be a standard. The standard becomes accepting the deal no matter what's on the table. That's how the deal works. So you have to understand that when you think that you have a good deal here, when you actually don't, and everybody, whether the level of success is high or not, it has to lie about how much they're winning here as the standard of winning, then everybody is losing overall. You have to understand that these people are trying to bring their relevance level up in society, not down in society itself. Because the actual society and culture within itself has to produce a level of failure at a very high level so that way the woman can maintain her control over the environment itself. Anybody who talks about culture or economics or any of this dumb shit has to provide a model to which these things are going to work. No man of no culture has ever waited on women to get their shit together before the men decided to walk away from the women. That's never how that ever worked in any other society in life. Most times in society, they would just, you know, side J their way through it. They're not trying to do business on their dealing. They would just leave all the game, all the way out of here. They're not trying to even deal with people who've actually been cultured for the specific fact that they're not even going to deal with you. No one's trying to make a deal through that. You have to understand that in this type of society and life, the only thing you could be able to give them is a better deal than what they don't have to work for. Now you have a group of men who claim that they have a better deal with no investment and that they're winning because they were able to get access to them. But at the end of the day, these people were actually giving them access to control the actual environment itself. And now they want to become enlightened magos on our watch. They keep talking about how Black American society has failed. No, you failed in society, and you don't have an ability to be able to move forward without broken men. That's not everybody else's problem. That's a singular problem on the individual basis itself. So I say, young guy, you've already won by not having the experience of the older people within the environment, to include me. Gather as much information that you can before you even start, not sexually, but statistical based. Before you decide to dip your toe into these waters so that way you think that you're going to be able to solve problems, you're only causing them by giving them additional power to them. Because people with power do not address or come to people without power. We know how to appropriately fight within the environment itself. There's several channels here that women have that they're not even going out there. They're only trying to look like they're fighting when they're not fighting at all. Because apparently there's enough men here to where looking like you're fighting for a cause that you're actually not invested in is the actual cause that you're invested in. But this is why they stay connected, strongly connected to this type of environment itself. Because if you go to any other culture and society, women who claim that they're community minded, they actually have rules and responsibilities for themselves that they have to practice. Here in this society, there's not really anything other than just making these ubiquitous claims about how you care about the outcome nets you as caring about the outcomes. You never heard any of these people who actually care about the outcome of black people outside of admixture ever exhibited a standard to where most of these women did not get access to by most of the men that they wanted to have access to. The dumbest, most unreasonable, the stupidest people who would hand them the entire community on a platter. The people who claim that they're winning in this environment have handed over the community to those people on a platter. That's what happened here. That's not hard to understand. It's not hard to figure out. It's not hard to grasp. There has to be a level of comfort, man, that's going to be able to provide comfort for the women who are comfortable in this society. Now, the new level of masculinity is talking to people that you can't help with answers to questions that you don't have. And you do it all purposefully so that way you can get eyeballs for bullshit. This is how this works. This doesn't work in other societies because they don't want to have those type of men around. Men who actually cared about their actual daughters would not allow their daughters to be accessed by such unrespective and unresponsive men here. Those people are already done. The only thing they can do right now is to create a bunch of failures right now. They have to crank out the actual level of failure. So the level of failure is the standard. I'm going into that right now. You see, the younger black men are not falling for this stuff, man. The only people who are falling for this stuff are the dudes who claim that they are running the plantation, people who claim that they have answers to the plantation, people who claim that they have everything else out here. I didn't have older men to look up to outside of the military. I was in an environment to where I was surrounded by them as a culture. Right now, as Checking for You said, people are formulating smarter plans without the help of parents, without the help of aunts and uncles, without the help of the manosphere itself, without the help of entertainment. It's going Howard Cooper. This is where we are. So you have to understand that you already won by not playing. You can continue to keep winning by planning beyond their control. That's what I did. I knew how to fill out my equal listing in the Air Force to where I would specifically end up overseas in my first station. I was given specific directions for that. And once I wanted to come back to the United States to get out of the military, I wanted to be set up in a city that was not the South. And that's how I ended up where I ended up at. Thanks for the 99 super chat, Howard Cooper. And that's how that worked. I didn't try to solve the issues in society and life by playing their game. I resolved the issue in life by not playing their game, by creating a system to where these people are locked out from the first beginning. That's how I won. WON, without niggas. I did it. I don't have to respect them. I don't have to respect hustles. I don't have to respect people who keep up bullshit narratives. I don't have to do that as a person. I've already made everything that I was outside of that paradigm. Now, there's a lot of people in society who think that they have to involve such people before they break away from them. I'm like, it's quite the opposite. You have to break away from them in the first beginning so that way you can move on forward. Because Any person who believes in this hustle bullshit, they don't have an actual end result that is explainable. The end result is explainable once you have a result. So if you're not headed toward a result and you have to declare a result mid mission as the actual reason why you need to play in the first place, this is bad. This is wrong. This is crazy. But you have to understand that it's not the women who's doing this, the men. It's the men who's trying to create the environment for men to be screwed over by the women. The women don't need extra bags of dicks. They already have too many that they can't cash in on. So the only thing that you have to do right now, sir, because all the paths have already been researched, all of the actual things that could actually be done have already been researched. The only thing you have to do now is pick a course that you want to go through to get a specific result. Me, when I graduated in the 90s, there wasn't all this stuff. What's going on, Ron? There was not all this stuff at all. You had to be socialized into it as an adult that was around people who actually was part of it. That's how that worked. It was not based on anything else. Because see, that's how cultures work. Culture are just like viruses, whether it's successful or whether it's a failure. There's a culture of people who want to go forward without accomplishment. And there are people who want to go forward with accomplishment without culture. Because the culture is based on failure, folks. Male failure. That's how that works. It doesn't matter about some unfeminine person's perspective of your masculinity that they can callously disregard at the moment's notice. That has been the actual level of black masculinity for a while. And it does serve as white masculinity in the white environments as well. Because you can have people pushing bad cultural endpoint narratives as the reason or the ramifications of how you get to be a man. So most of these people who are actually pushing these narratives, they're not even telling you about how much or how much you're going to lose by practicing a bad standard. They don't even go over that because their life is the failure outcome. They're patient X of failure. They're not trying to teach you the fact that you should stay away from certain types of people so that way you don't receive specific outcomes. They're trying to feed you specifically into these specific outcomes so that way you'll never be better than them. That's how that works. This is why it's vitally important not to play. This is why it's vitally important to have your self-esteem in check. So that way you don't have to be given a compliment by somebody who you shouldn't be around. And that ends up being an avenue of this person being inside of your life because that's the best you ever felt from a person. When it's not even based on those things. This is what I'm saying. You don't have to play this game. We see now there's enough people not playing already and had better results than the people who are. You gotta let the plantation maggots brag about the shit that they brag on. There's no way you can be able to challenge them within their environment themselves. You gotta be able to move on. The only way you could be able to lose is if you play their game where they have the height of the power and you have none. At the end of the day, you got to have a well-rounded approach about how things work. What's going on, Shaka Lulu? This is the time where you gather enough information before you decide to play. Because if you've gathered enough information, if you've been to enough of environments, you will know this is the environment that you do not play in. People who are going through child support hell, that's not entertainment. That's something that they live through every day they wake up. Those people who claim that they're winning, but they can't show that they're actually winning when it comes to women itself, they don't have the showpiece. They're the showpiece showing off for the women. The women are not showing off for the dudes. The women are not even claiming the dudes in most of these scenarios. Most of the dudes are claiming success. The women are not claiming that those dudes are successful over them. Don't you think that's a problem if you are successful, but we can't judge how successful you are? Well, not really. Anybody takes the MOT challenge. I come to your city, we go to the IRS, we pull your last five against my last five, and we go live inside the IRS. That's an MOT challenge. Because you can say everything you want to, but the numbers ain't gonna lie, and the IRS ain't gonna lie on nobody. That's the standard. Anybody can keep up as much nonsense as they want to. Anybody can make it look like they're a millionaire on paper, which is very easy to do. Which I don't like the net worth system. I think net worth is bullshit. I always thought it was bullshit because you're not going to be able to get the asking price for everything, especially if you have a fire sale. That's why I don't like the net worth system. The net worth system is nonsense. Anybody can evaluate anything for over how much they want to, and it doesn't make any sense. This is why I say you don't need to play this game at all. However, if you want to make it look like you're winning more than you are, the only thing you gotta do is talk a lot of shit. That's all you gotta do. What's going on, Lionel McDowell? Yeah, but that's how things work around here. You have to understand that you're already ahead by not playing. If they are not trying to get anything out of you when you don't have value, do you already won? The only thing you can do is lose ground in a situation like that. Like this is why right now a lot of people are understanding the war of attrition. Not because of in-depth battle, it's because of waiting them out. If you got where you went because of somebody's opinion within the environment, what happens when that person no longer has the type of say so that they had 10 or 15 years ago? What happens when those individuals run out of sexual vitality? What happens when those individuals cannot find new individuals to feed into this feedback mechanism that gave them power in the first place? What happens when they run out of men that has the type of money to take care of them? That's how that works. As men start to be more disciplined, women lose out on less disciplined dudes. This is why it's easier to be a plantation spokesman than it is to be a person who actually engages in the product itself. Because it's all about the optics of winning. It's not about actual winning itself. It's about the optics of winning. And you have to realize that the people who had the optics of winning are actually the people who are losing right now. You're not going to be able to image your way into a position like that. Those doors are closed. That was a moonshot from the first beginning. You have to realize that this space is very small. Thanks to me actually clicking on certain videos, I've never even heard of people who have 100,000, 200,000, 300,000 people paying attention to their channel. The manosphere is very small. And that's why I'm moving on to something else outside of this. Because the people want to talk to women here, which is fine. But at the end of the day, that's not why I came here. I've already been beyond them as the actual beginning of where I was. I wasn't trying to make a deal. Why would I talk to people who are less than me, who don't bring anything to the table, when I've already replaced them from the outset? You have to understand that you have to insource things and outsource things. You can only insource and outsource things when you have power. If you don't have power, personal power, your money together and shit, then you don't have to make a deal for what's here. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's just the position of where you are. Yeah, but that image stuff, Gretch, it runs out fast as hell. As soon as you got it, you lose it just as fast, and people don't understand that. That's how they, you know, go into your personal life and hey, everything ain't as smooth as it looks. When you actually go into the actual thing, because people do go there. This is why I'm like, dude, this place wasn't made to go mainstream like that. There's a lot of people think 150, 250, 300 people live in the chat is mainstream. I'm like, dude, that ain't mainstream. Dude, you ain't seen mainstream pressure. Mainstream pressure where they're showing up at your house. Mainstream pressure where they're going through your whole track record with a fine tooth comb. Nobody in this space would want to go through that. I don't want to go through that. But you already won by not playing. You already won by not even being there. You already won by not being chosen by them. And the only thing you could do right now is to increase your level of choice. That's how you win. There's nobody who's SYSBM or passport bros who's talking about all this type of stuff without having a verified career field. I don't even correct people when they say things wrong or bad about SYSBM. It's just like, well, passport bros. I'm like, hey man, that's your understanding, and I'm not going to waste any type of time trying to get you up to speed on something that you should already understand. Trust me, they want you to play. Trust me, they want you to be the next guy to be sexually compromised, to be the next guy who drop a kid into a person who's a 1 out of 10, who's giving you baby mama hell. You gotta be able to move from that. You gotta be able to move from that and move from that quick. Because if you don't move from it, you're gonna be consumed by it. Because see, a lot of people need a lot of suckers right now, and that's the problem with this. A lot of people are trying to prepare suckers for entertainment purposes or try to make it look like it's for entertainment purposes. But there's a lot of people who's looking for suckers right now. I ran into it when I went to my 25th class reunion. Oh, there was a lot of people putting their bids in. Oh, how you feel about kids? How you feel about this? How you feel about like I'm good? I'm doing good. We're doing good. Who's her? Oh, she's with me. She looks kind of young. Ha ha ha. Nope. She looks young because that's the way she's supposed to look. She's supposed to look good. You don't look good no more. You can't compete with that. Don't worry about it. But at the end of the day, they never ran into dude with options. That's what they've been socialized out of. But they actually have been prepared to come in to harvest what dudes have actually built. And the fact that they are wanting that inside of their life right now, that's how that was. They didn't have to worry about the management mechanism. Because at the end of the day, that stuff was theirs already. They didn't even ask you. It was already theirs. Why? They just like, who's this guy? We starred them out for years. And the guys who we gave all the play to, them guys are messed up too. So of course we got more time for these other guys. That's how that works. That's not a partner. That's a mosquito. Yeah. But see, you have to recognize that you already won by not playing. The only thing they can do is draw you off sides. The great thing is that you're already ahead, so far ahead. So far ahead you are. But a lot of people don't want to see you win, man. They can't see you win. Seeing you win is some of the worst things that they can possibly imagine. Hey, look. I went all the way to a master's and halfway through a doctorate before I got into a truck. No shame in it. None at all. And most of my actual winning was based on the fact that I didn't make bad decisions and choices and been in situations that I couldn't get out of. Like if I was in some of my older or even younger brother situation with these kids and shit, there ain't no way in the hell this would be able to work. There ain't no way this would be able to work. When you can close that door and you can experience that silence without the phone ringing for some bullshit ass reason, you won. That's easy. Other people are already doing that right now. But they want you to compete for a standard that they're not even competing in. So that way you can lower yourself down to their level, man. Like, bro, they're trying to sell you a check into their actual hell that they're actually experiencing. Hey, that's how it needs to be, man. I wouldn't be at where I was today unless I got screwed over by somebody. I got screwed over by a guy, and I didn't want not want to be in a situation like that again. So I just built my own shit. That's how you got to be. But see, other people already socialized into this stuff without even have to go through the struggle of actually being screwed over by other people. A lot of these people are socialized into this stuff early. A lot of us has to be socialized into it after we lost some shit into our 30s and 40s. Like most people that I've met, most of them, they were never socialized into it. They came into it after they didn't feel out of shit. But now there's too much information out there now to where you can do this stuff a proper way and do proper business with people. The only thing you got to do is pick your customers. That's something that is not taught to people, period, is picking your customers. A lot of people think that getting all customers are good. No, 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 no. Getting all customers is a bad idea. Picking a certain specific level of customers is what you actually need to do to survive yourself. Like I said, you don't need to play. You already won. You don't have to beg anybody for respect. See, you got it or you don't. If you're trying to do it through her respect model, you're never gonna win. Because the people who actually think that they're winning, they ain't winning either. But that's where we at, folks. This stuff really is not that hard. All paths have already been researched. The only way that you lose nowadays is that you're stuck in a city that you can't get out of, or you made a mistake that you shouldn't have made before, which should have made you be more disciplined moving forward, or you just flat out don't want to do it and you want to do it the hardest way possible on the hardest difficulty. And you don't understand that all those things are choices, choices that you don't have to make. But this is where we are, folks. We're in the age of choice. We're coming upon the age of a new sexual male enlightenment to where men are going to not base themselves on how much ass that they get, but how much ass that they stay away from. That comes too. Just wait till you get your shit together. You don't have to turn down so much good looking shit that it's gonna blow your mind how much you're gonna turn down. And how much you actually engage in, which is going to actually destroy and ruin your life or reputation or your business or anything else, because they're going to be sending them your way. Again, you win by not playing. This is why people from actually cultured backgrounds don't have problems with discipline and all this shit, because they women are already cultured to receive what they're actually providing. And everybody's already bought into the plan already because it's the cultural plan. However, when you have a whole bunch of self-interested people, not only the men, but the women who want to benefit from the man and give it to a nothing ass dude, and the dude who wants to go around bragging on that he benefited off another man's labor. That stuff don't happen in other cultures, man. But that's what it is. That's why it's vitally important to have as less access or even intervention or experience with this environment here as possible. You got to get to know how things work properly and correctly before you try to drag along too much weight along the wrong path and then you never make it, which is how most of these people got saddled into these particular things. They thought they was doing the right thing, but the only thing they didn't run into was the right type of consequences with the path that they was on. That's how that stuff works. So I want to thank you guys for coming through. Make sure you guys like the video before you get up out of here. And do you win by not playing? You already won by not playing. You already won by not being picked or chose or having any consequences or child support dockets and all this nonsense. Do you already won? Don't give up your position of power by playing up at specific levels of game that you don't win at. Because the people who claim they win, they can't show proof. What do you think happens when you actually get your stuff together and you have to lower yourself into this type of environment to play? It don't work. So I want to thank you guys for coming through. And the man tomorrow, you guys have a really nice night. Peace.